Welcome back to Chiefs Fans Before We Were Cool, the only Chiefs fans podcast that features children and statisticians as guests. So, pretty
You
niche
got
if you
it.
ask me.
It's pretty prestigious. Pretty prestigious. Um, yeah, yep. Well, here we are. It's just us two though. We have neither of them today.
Yes,
So just two uncool dudes
but
chilling.
we're wearing pretty cool jerseys.
Yeah.
So, you know, we do what we can.
hmm
So, should we start ourselves off with some good old-fashioned memes for the day?
Um, yeah. Yeah, of course. Like what else would you start with when you could be doing,
Yeah.
yeah,
Ye-
I don't know.
All
Obviously
right.
we won against the Bengals. Very
Yep.
close game, as they
hmm
always are, ending with a field goal, as they always do. So that's pretty fun. Let's see
Yep.
some good memes somewhere over the meme bow.
For those of you, the everyone else watching this doesn't know this, but every week when I share the memes with Eric and he doesn't see them ahead of time, so it's like a blind reaction. But I always name it some weird thing just because you have to name it to share the slides. And so that's what he he's rolling his eyes to my weird names of my
Yeah,
slideshow.
yeah,
So
yeah. So this is supposed to be Burrowhead. Good callback to some of the taunting and stuff. I mean, it's a picture of that call. That Jamar Chase apparently wanted a hip drop tackle, which is kind of a weird thing to want. In that when McDuffie tackled him for a variety of reasons. One, it has like four elements, like hip drop tackle has to have four elements. Um, and so they're just rarely called. And like when they could have been called, a couple times, they haven't been. Um, hasn't been a point of emphasis. And also, if you're getting tackled, there's no way you know that like all those mechanisms of the hip drop tackle are being fulfilled. But he was very upset. And Joe Burrow was trying to tell him to calm down. Everybody's trying to tell him to calm down. He's like, no, that was a hip drop tackle. How dare he do this? It's like, I feel like it's almost like this thing where he's like, it's like a He-Man thing almost. Like, no way that guy tackled me for real.
yeah. Well, it was probably a lot of pent up frustration with how he had not really been super involved in the game because of McDuffie, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but I
Lockdown
also
corner.
I
What?
should also say that I'm making a commitment this year to be less of an anti-Bengals podcast, uh, mostly out of safety. So, like Eric cannot talk too much trash about the Cowboys due to his living circumstance. Mine has changed, and so suddenly I need to be a little bit less uh, vocal with my dislike to the Bengals. So,
I mean, if their biggest crime is being the team that can seems to be able to match up with the Chiefs pretty well, um, it's not that bad of a crime. They're a
that's
pretty good
true.
team. It's kind of how I feel about people who are haters on the Chiefs. You're just like, yep, we're really good.
hmm
Yep, sorry. I guess I wish we weren't so good. I mean, I don't know like what to say at some points. But yeah, let's go to the other meme. Oh, the Browns missing Baker Mayfield as he dominates over there. Yeah, that
Yeah.
whole we talked about that a little bit last time. That whole situation with Deshaun Watson and all those things. It's just it it's karma. Like
Yeah. Man,
karma is crazy.
I don't expect Baker Mayfield to still be like, I don't really expect him to probably be the MVP candidate by the end of the year. But the fact that he has played so stinking well through the
So much
first two
better
weeks,
than
so much better
Deshaun
than Deshaun
Watson.
Watson has, you know, uh, is crazy. So
Yep, those Browns are
yeah,
going to be wasting all these years of having such a good defense and stuff. But
yeah.
no, some people do that. So,
hmm That was us for a long time. So
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, when we had a good defense.
Yeah, I'm thinking back in like the Justin Houston, like
Yeah,
prime of
that's
his
true.
career,
Mm.
you
Yeah,
know,
no.
Tom
There were
Bahali,
times where
Eric
defense was
Berry.
pretty good. Yeah,
So
they're pretty
yeah.
good. All right, so here's some Brother Wonders questions,
All
which
right.
you haven't seen
I
before.
haven't seen or
So
heard.
you get to see live reaction to Brother Wonders questions. So, do you think the Bengals or the Ravens will have a better record at the end of the season? What do you think their records will be?
Oh man. I feel like to be a really good guess, I would have to pull up their schedule, but I'll do it without going through both of their schedules. I think the Ravens will have the better record because it seems to me that the Ravens tend to do better within the division games than the Bengals do. Um, that the Ravens usually at least split with every team, and I think they've, beat the Bengals often. Um,
Hmm.
the Ravens, without looking at their schedule, I would be surprised, and if they didn't still end up with at least 10 to 11 wins.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's probably the Ravens as well. Um, just their defense, you trust a
Mhm.
little bit more. I think their loss to the Raiders, I mean, they're very embarrassing. I don't know. It's kind of hard. There's kind of toss up between their loss to the Raiders and the Bengals loss to the Patriots. Um, but I guess one thing that could shift it is assuming T. Higgins comes back and is healthy the year, which with a hamstring is very
Mhm.
questionable. But I would say maybe if T. Higgins and Jamar Chase play out the rest of the year and Higgins doesn't have any more setbacks, then I would maybe change my position on that.
Yeah. And I expect the records to be really close, whatever it is. Like if the Ravens
Yeah.
end up with 11 wins, yeah, I think the
Yeah.
Bengals are probably going to be, uh, you know, 10 wins or some 9 wins,
Yeah.
but
I
it's a
think, yeah,
tough
that's pretty,
division. That's the real thing.
yeah.
So the division's
I,
real tough.
I did hear a stat recently that only 5% of teams that start 0 and 2 get into the playoffs,
Hmm.
which I mean, I feel like it's kind of a wonky stat in some ways, like who the majority of OT teams are, right? Like most of the good teams will split their first games, but there's plenty of good teams that, that 5% I feel like is the Bengals
Yeah.
every year.
Well, in the last
So,
year, they missed the playoffs with a pretty decent record, but again, it was because the other three teams in their division had better records and made the playoffs. So, yeah, that's
yeah,
a good question though.
good question. Who do you think is going to be our primary running back moving forward?
Yeah. Well, I would love to see Carson Steele get some looks. Obviously, I mentioned last week I'm a big fan. It's hard not to like anyone who's got a pet alligator, right? Or is it a pet crocodile? I'm not really sure which one it is. Um, It'll be interesting to see. I'm assuming you saw the news about Kareem Hunt being signed to the practice squad. Um, and so he obviously, I think, really can excel, if he ends up making the team. Which I assume he will, but he's a good third down back too, and that he is good in the pass game as well. So I'm not really sure what that will look like. To be honest, what I would think would be a kind of a running back committee by Steele and Hunt, with maybe Hunt getting more of the third down or the passing looks. But I also think it's likely there could be another person who gets added to the roster,
Right.
or to help fill in this in. So I'm not really sure.
I mean, it's hard. Carson Steele really just he's really good at the one thing he does, which is like bulldoze people. But like any other real running back skills, like I don't know. Like I had Pacheco in one of my leagues and I didn't even pick up Carson Steele when I had a chance because I was just like, I'm not like big on him personally. I mean, preseason's one thing. Um, but I mean, I think he'll be good for like first and second downs. I think P Ryan might be the best pass
Hmm.
uh, blocker. Um, so he might play a good bit, and then who knows if Hunt has anything in the tank, but he would probably be the best goal line back
Yeah.
as far as versatility and stuff like that. So it's just a bunch of three. I think they're going to kind of replace him in the aggregate. Like maybe Steele, young, fresh legs, comes in, does a good job, learns and grows in some ways, and takes the job. That would be cool. Good for him. I just personally am not too optimistic about really any of them. Um, but I am optimistic in general that our running game will be good enough
Yeah.
with all of them or with two of them, whatever the coaching staff decides to use.
Yep.
So,
I'd agree
yep.
with that. I mean, I think it's hard to know what it's going to look like, but I think it'll be good enough. And the crazy thing is, if Hunt is only the goal line situations, you like might only have like 10 attempts in a game, but still be like, you'd never start him because you couldn't plan it, but could be a decent fantasy back. And that you're like, he only gets 2 yards, but he also gets 3 touchdowns in a game. Like,
Yeah, who knows how they're gonna do it. I mean, Carson Steele has some touchdown equity, like again, if you're
yeah,
thinking fantasy, so he's probably the one to get. I just tend to like if I think it's gonna be a committee, even if like I don't really care. Like as far as fantasy, I just
yeah,
like I don't care about getting the 1A or the 1B too much unless I think
yeah,
they're younger and they have a chance to become just the like there's an injury or something and then
yeah,
they become the
yeah.
primary
In
back.
general, I think the only reason you get, the handcuff back is that it's a team that's heavy run. And if my back gets injured, that this one's at least going to see, 10 to
Yeah.
15 runs a game, which
Yeah.
could be amount to something. So
Well, 10 to 15 runs and a few catches.
yeah,
And
and a
that's
few
that's what I'm
catches.
not sure about with like Steele. So if you think
Yeah,
of a time where the run game gets stifled against whatever team, um, and we're not haven't been quite been dominant enough deep, I think, for people to respect it.
yeah.
We'll see. Um, so we'll see. We'll see. But and then finally the last question is kind of related to it is do you think our pass attempts will go up significantly with Isaac Pacheco injury?
Yeah.
We didn't run that much with him.
Yeah, I don't think it'll
It's like
be
15 attempts.
significantly different. Um,
Yeah.
I think we use the run as a threat to keep them honest on the blitzing.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't think that will change. I'd say the only thing you might see is you might have more. There'd be passes, but you might do, basically runs with the pat. Like you might do more wide receiver screens and things like that. Just
Yeah.
get the ball out quickly.
Yeah. Rasheed Rice, man.
Yeah. So,
Ooh. He might push for wide receiver one. I don't know.
hmm
We'll see.
man, what a guy.
He's experience. I think it's kind of sad that it's kind of like our receiving core really is the same except for Xavier Worthy, which I think is going to be good, but he's still a rookie. So
Yeah.
anytime you have a rookie coming in to save the day, um, you should be
Yeah.
a little hesitant to be um, jumping, celebration,
Yeah.
kind of like just like last week.
But it was
Um,
good as far as what Rice could do winning on
mhm.
that deep ball because it just means like people also have, you can't if you're guarding him, you can he's only going to go on the inside. You have to still respect that what he can
Ooh,
do
yeah,
in the distance too. I think that was a good reminder for that is he's not
yeah,
just the short pass guy. He has good hands. He can play deep too.
yeah, and the long slant and stuff. Yeah, those are the kinds of things you want to make sure you keep doing. We'll see if Kelsey gets more involved. If people start keying in on Rice as the primary threat, which
Yeah.
might be at this point. Like he does a lot of same things Kelsey does, and he's younger and a little bit more agile. So we'll see kind of how that goes. But hopefully Xavier Worthy, he seemed a little. I mean, he just seemed like a rookie at certain points, like
Yeah.
when he fell uh, on that pass, which was maybe just fluky, but it just seemed like there were certain things that could have been done better, or like he's really fast, but that interception that was pretty impressive play. I mean, the Bengals player was running step with him. Like it wasn't like he had created separation really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe Mahomes expected a little bit more separation or something like that. But anyway, it's kind of a crazy time. But well, I bet he'll be good, and he was a quick learner in college, so I think he'll pick up.
Yeah.
Been dominant all his years in college, so that's good. Yeah. So those are some things brother wonders, and now brother maybe still wonders, but now he's heard other people wonder about the his
Yeah.
wonderings. So
Yeah.
it's good.
Well, so I have something for us to talk through now. So we talked about this last year, I think it was, or maybe it was during one of the like the one preseason video we made. Can't remember which. But as a podcast community with our fans, many of whom, but not all of whom, are related to us, they a lot of podcasts have kind of a name for their community. Um, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but I don't need to. You know what I'm talking about. So we kind of generated this list, and I'm just going to read these, and then I don't know, we'll kind of talk about it some, but we'd love to hear your thoughts on these names too. So stop me if you want to mention anything about any of these, Eric. So
Absolutely.
the first one's maybe the most obvious, the uncool crew. So uh,
Cool crew. Yeah, we got some alliteration going on, kind of.
yep, the unhip huddle.
The unhip huddle. Nice. Let's unhiply huddle together, guys. Come on. We can do it.
The unfashionable fanatics.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I think this is pretty fashionable. So I don't know it.
Look, any Chiefs jersey is in fashion, man. I see
Yeah,
all these tiny children wearing them all the time. So
true.
obviously, we should definitely get in on it.
You should obviously base your fashion off of what children wear.
Yes.
That's can't go wrong.
They're the cool ones. Let's
Chief
be real.
stuff and Fortnite stuff, right? That's and then you're cool.
You
Um,
got it.
uncool in the kingdom. So,
Uncool Kingdom.
and then and this is the last one with uncool in it because this will be the third, but the uncool collective.
The Uncool
Uh,
Collective. I like that a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah. Uncool Collective.
Then these last two don't really have to play off the uncool thing, but more of the fact that part of the reason that we're not cool is because we're nerds. uh, the Chiefs nerd herd,
Chiefs Nerd Herd.
and then this one, uh, Dork Dynasty.
The Dork Dynasty.
So, yeah. So,
I feel like I could, be a Dork Dynasty with you, Joel.
yeah.
I
Yep.
wouldn't mind. Or we could, I was trying to think of some of my own, like the Uncoolios or
The
something like that.
Uncoolios.
I like that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely not cool. And I'll
Yeah.
also say Coolio.
I also feel like maybe if we decided to start a podcast in honor of like the career that Julio Jones had, the
Oh, I mean,
Uncoolios,
yeah,
that
I
would
guess
be.
it would be better Falcon or whatever.
But that doesn't, probably no Falcons fan is listening to this, so they won't know that we took their better idea. So,
Coolios.
um,
Uh, yeah.
yeah. Any other ones coming to your mind?
Mm, nah, I think I'll stick with that one on Coolios. That's my thing. I feel like you could maybe think of a thing that goes with it, but
Yeah,
um, the Uncoolio crowd,
the Uncoolio crowd. I like it.
corner, Uncoolio. Well, no,
Uncoolio.
that doesn't really work. But anyway,
Yeah.
we'll have to think about it. You
We'll
can
think
put it in the
about this.
comments, your
You let us know in the
suggestions, and we'll
comments.
read them next time.
Yeah. The because that could be fun. You might have better suggestions. You might say, "Oh man, Dork Dynasty is the way to go."
Yeah,
Um,
to show
which would
Dork
be
Dynasty's where to go. To
yeah,
show how uncool I am.
yeah,
I've literally been like walking around doing this, like Patrick, to see if anybody will notice, like kind of like just making it my little Twitch thing
Yeah,
kind of thing that I'll
yeah.
do in certain contexts to see if anybody
Oh man,
comments. I haven't gotten a comment yet, but
that's too good. That's too good.
just like yeah, like
Yeah,
yeah, if we're gonna talk about our team, we have to go like this
yeah.
with both hands. It's like the
Then we're really
Uncoolios.
gonna be uncool. I mean, Patrick Mahomes can do that and it's not uncool, but when we do that, it definitely definitely is uncool. Oh
All right.
man.
That's pretty strong. Awesome.
Yeah. So of the two touchdowns or the two offensive touchdowns, I should say,
Hmm.
which were you the most impressed with?
I mean, it's always fun to see the big guy score.
Yeah.
Dude, they like I just love that we do stuff like that. It's pretty fun. So I think it was mm, the two sorry. It was what was it to pass to yeah, one to yeah, Wanya Morris.
Yeah.
Um that was that was pretty cool.
You know my favorite Chiefs memory of a big guy score is I think it was a Christmas Day game against the Denver Broncos when Donatary Poe lined up in the backfield to run in. Like, he'd scored a touchdown that way before, but it was a fake, and he actually threw the ball and was like the first defensive lineman, I think, to score running and to score passing touchdowns in his career or something like that. It was just like I think at that point the game was already sealed, so it's just like
Yeah.
the
They're
salt
just
on the
having fun.
wound, but that was a
Yeah, I
good
hope we can
memory.
have some fun games. Both these games have
Yeah.
been kind of stressful and maybe a little reminiscent of last year. So hopefully Mahomes isn't getting stressed out and we're in a good spot
Yeah.
to start having fun. Like I really want us to just like throw it deep, like forget that, you know.
Yeah.
I don't care if they're doing two high safeties. Maybe I should. Maybe it's going to be terrible, but I've it's just this whole. I guess you have to be patient. You just have to be patient, especially with lose Anarumo's defense. He's so good against
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes. And we saw him dial up a really good game plan, and it limited us. 26 points is not nothing, but
Yeah.
um, it's a good, it's
Yeah.
pretty cool
I, I
to
I did
see the
see
Chiefs win
that.
too.
I don't remember the exact thing, but like teams that are held to only like two touchdowns or two often. I don't remember what all the stats were, but basically like most teams that have that many turnovers
Hmm.
and play like they did don't win the game.
Yeah,
And
I
I
mean
think
three
it's like,
turnovers. We
yeah,
lost a turnover battle by two. Now their one turnover was a touchdown.
yeah.
So
So obviously makes a big difference. But
that's a little bit different.
oh, I think it was like we had less than 200 yards passing and had three turnovers. And I think like the stat was something ridiculous. Like it's like 1 to like 97 or something of like
Hmm.
that. And it's like that's the one game that the team won. I don't remember the exact thing. So don't quote me on that.
I
So
will quote you on that everywhere.
don't quote me
It's
on
like the
that,
200,
Joel.
Joel, in the words of Joel, 200 yards and like three turnovers, with less than 200-yard passing. I think it's a pretty low percentage of teams that do that win.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the Chiefs win even when it's ugly. I mean, honestly, I would have been fine with this season, going for the three-peat if we just blew, we just destroyed every team. Just it was real easy, but such is life as a Chiefs
Yeah,
fan.
I mean they save too much back. When we play good teams, we usually split some games, we lose
Yeah.
some. So we'll see kind of how that goes. But it's because we're not really showing all our cards consistently.
Yeah.
So
Now, I don't know if you've seen any of this online again, because I think it's part of it is like my Facebook algorithm like knows I get frustrated by these, but there's a lot of people who've been complaining about that pass interference call at the end. Um,
yeah, they don't know what they're talking about.
yeah.
I don't even
And
know if we should discuss it. It's just like it was pass interference. He clearly hit him before the thing, and you have to call it like, yeah, let him play to a degree, but I mean that at that point you're like Rasheed Rice probably would have caught it if he wasn't
yeah,
hit like that.
yep. Yeah. And I have thought like, and I know I've compl I think I probably complained last year when we played the Packers on that one for MVS, that no call. But I just think like it's getting ridiculous now where like calls that are not controversial are people are saying, "Oh, the refs handed the game to the Chiefs again." I think like we
Yeah,
just as football fans need to be better than that. So like I'm trying to this year, I'm going to try not to complain about calls.
yeah.
I said I'm going to try. To try. Didn't say I was going to necessarily be 100% at it, but maybe I'll bat like 300. Like different sport.
That's
I
funny.
think the internet's reaction to things, I think it's kind of
Yeah.
ruining football a little bit in that anytime a foul is called, like, oh, the game is rigged for this team. It's like,
No, good teams generally win, and
yeah,
so and you could point to any other call for the other team probably, or most,
yeah,
and it was like, oh, that was a big deal because then they continued on the drive and they got a touchdown.
yeah.
Like it happens. Yeah, people are like the refs are terrible. They do this and this. And it's like you just notice. It's something I actually talk to students I teach logic about. Negativity bias. There's a couple other word terms for similar ideas, but you just notice when the calls are bad, right? Like you don't notice the 100 other times where the calls were
Yeah.
good. Refs are way better than we give them credit for, and
Yep.
it's just a ignorance of just human nature and the reality of what we notice and don't notice, right? Which is when the calls go away or the calls are clearly right.
And I mean, obviously when I'm frustrated by the calls, it's okay because I actually did some refing for some like flag football leagues. I was paid to do it for a while before
Yeah,
I realized it wasn't fun. So that does make me a professional.
you're an expert.
So
You're paid to do it. Yeah,
so
yeah.
no, joking, just kidding on that, obviously. But I did see, that like that Jim Halpert meme where he's like pointing to the whiteboard. Uh, and it's like I thought it was pretty funny. It's like bad teams cry about the refs. Good teams have championship parades. Yeah, you tell
Well,
him, Jim.
I do feel very blessed to be a Chiefs fan and be able
Yeah,
to be generally happy more often than not.
that's true. That's true.
What do you feel about Atlanta coming up?
Yeah, I feel
Oh, sorry.
like.
Actually, we do have to. Sorry.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
We do we do have to um I wanted to come back because we talked about our left tackle,
yes,
Kingsley, which I'll probably just call Kingsley from now on because I'm tired of embarrassing myself.
yeah,
Uh Big ol' Sue. No. Um he struggled this game. He
yeah,
got benched for Wanya Morris late in the game, and I think they were just trying to stabilize the left side a little bit. Um, I noticed this in the game actually, and then I heard people talk about it later. They weren't giving him help. Like they weren't hardly giving him any help against Trey Hendrickson, who's a great edge rusher.
yeah,
Um, so I think we should go back. I think they're planning to go back. That's kind of the Chiefs' way. Carson Steele fumbles and they go right back to him with the next
yeah,
carry. Like, so I think they will go back and he'll have a shot to do it. But I mean, you don't want to mess around with Mahomes' blindside either. So
yeah,
uh, we'll see kind of how it goes with the Falcons. They're pretty good pass rush, but if he struggles again, maybe that first week glow where we're like, oh, he did pretty good,
yeah,
it'll kind of rub off a little bit and we'll be like, oh, do we really want to risk our quarterback? You know,
yeah. It'll be interesting to see how they adjust. And obviously, I think the Falcons is pretty good, but it's the last 2 weeks they've faced really good pass rushes. Um, And so, yeah, we'll have to see. And it's interesting. I wonder if their logic is, well, you're going to need to figure out how to do this by yourself, so no help for you, or if it's just because honestly, anybody who would give like help or like a chip block is also a very valuable asset as a weapon, and so they don't
mm,
want to make them, like Kelsey obviously can block, but it feels like a waste of talent to have him primarily blocking, you know.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what goes on.
Okay.
Uh, but thoughts on the Falcons game? I think we should win. Um, I think it'll be closer than what I would want it to be. Um, again, just because I think the Falcons are going to surprise. I mean, I think they were surprised last week, right? I can't remember who they played last week, but
The
oh, the Eagles,
Falcons,
right?
they play the Eagles. Yeah.
And I think the Falcons, they're this season, I don't expect them to be like a deep playoff contender or anything, but I think they're going to surprise a lot of teams who don't come to the game respecting what they can do.
Hmm.
Um, and so that's kind of how I feel about that. Like, I could see this being a game that's a lot closer than it should be. I
Hmm.
think we're only the favorite by like, I think it's 3.5 right now. Um, part of
Yeah.
that I think is because Pacheco. So I think like this is a game it'll be
Well,
close.
it's at the Falcons, so that means we would be a 6 point favorite-ish at home. But
Okay. Um, yeah, I feel like this is a game we should win, but it's also those kind of games that sometimes the Chiefs randomly drop where you're like, oh,
you know,
that was a team you should have beat. But what are your thoughts?
yeah, I mean, McDuffie's the real deal. And so if he can blanket Drake London, that could really be helpful. They do have some other players. I'm curious to see if Kyle Pitts will go off since we've been giving up a lot of yards to tight ends
Yeah.
the first 2 games. So, which is part of the defensive scheme. Part of it is our linebackers have struggled.
Yeah.
So we'll see if Nick Bolton um, and our other linebackers can
It's
get right.
it seems like our linebackers are really good at making tackles. They are not always as good at covering.
Yeah, their coverage has been pretty bad.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll see kind of how that plays or what Atlanta does. I think Kirk Cousins is a great quarterback.
Yeah.
Um, but he's also pretty immobile. So if we can get some good pass rush through their line,
Yeah.
um, with just our first four and then maybe throwing a few blitzes, I think we should be able to pull out the win that way. But I don't know. Like you said, this could definitely be a game we drop, especially if they can take advantage of our struggling coverage linebackers.
Hmm.
But and the Falcons did look really good, at least for that last drive. So I
Yeah.
expect they'll get better and better, but I don't I think it's still a little too early for them to be able to overcome the talent gap.
Yeah. And maybe it won't be as close as we think because maybe it'll be the game where the Chiefs finally get like some of those things settled back into place. Um,
Maybe.
but but it seems like we only do that for the playoffs. So
Yeah. We tend to play for the playoffs. We're not running up scores, and
yeah.
once we're able to win, we just kind of close it out. We don't push in a way that could make us lose.
Yep.
I would think that we would maybe do a little bit more this year, but and I mean it's only been 2 games against really tough defenses. So
Yeah.
once we have some of those easier matchups, we'll see
Yeah.
kind of how we come through.
Obviously, we still have some tough games ahead of us, but you'd say, probably two of the toughest five teams will play.
Yep.
We've already done. So,
Yep. Did I
yep.
say we lose to the Falcons? I think I said we beat the Bengals. So
Yeah. I don't think you said to lose to the Falcons though, although I think
I thought about it as a
you
trap
thought
game.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, but they looked pretty bad the first week, so I was kind of colored by that a little bit. Like,
Yeah. So,
yeah. Anyway, we'll see how that goes, and um, I'm excited to see it though. Chiefs are
yeah.
always fun to watch. They've been good games. People can
Yep.
cry about the refs, but whenever you have a game that close and that competitive, it's some good football watching. Oh, I was going to mention this. My fantasy football team. I watched that Falcons game because my fantasy football team was in a real close matchup with somebody else, and I ended up winning by less than a point. And I had Kyle Pitts, who had a catch on the last drive. I had Drake London, who got the touchdown on the last drive. And the other opponent had Jalen Hurts, who threw the
Hmm.
interception. So the combination of all those things made me go from like 99% chance of loss to win. by less than a point. So
That's awesome.
that was pretty insane.
The only thing that would
Pretty,
be
pretty,
worse,
pretty bad for the other person. I felt pretty
yeah.
bad for their
What if the other
luck
person
there,
was
but
like tied with you and then their quarterback did a kneel and so they lost, 1 yard. And so they
yeah,
go down, point one and then they lose
that
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 way.
is that is the worst actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is the worst.
Well,
Yeah.
um, you're not playing me this week, are you, in fantasy?
No, I'm playing my
Okay.
brother.
Okay, well then good luck to you.
Good. Yeah, let's keep winning. I mean, my team, I lost my two top receiver picks, and my third receiver pick is Jalen Waddle, who lost his quarterback. So my receivers are struggle bussing, but I picked up Williamson. So hopeful
All right.
it's for real and go Detroit, I guess. Um,
Just not when they play us though.
Not when they play us.
All
Absolutely
right.
not.